Bienvenidos and welcome back to Puro Pinche Gol, the podcast where we discuss all things Usmnt, ligamx, and la seleccionmexicana. My name's Adrian. Joining me once again, my co-host Tocayo, Adrian. Adrian, what's going on, man? How are you, bro?
Hey, how's it going, dude? Monday here. A little sad that I'm not going to have ligamx this weekend, but excited to see if el vascoaguirre can finally break through the semifinals of Concacaf Nations League.
And you might see Tigres live, so that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's going to be an exciting weekend that starts on on Thursday, March 20th. Obviously, with the semifinals in SoFi Stadium there in Los Angeles, the first game starting at 6 p.m. Central Time, USA versus Panama, and then 9:30 p.m. Central Time in the same stadium, Canada versus Mexico. Winner of those matches will go on to fight and face off in the final of the match or of the Nations League, Sunday, March 23rd at 8:30 p.m. So that's going to be, obviously the four big teams of Concacaf right now. Adrian, I'd say based off performances of the last year and a half, Panama obviously being. Well, both Panama and Canada being the two teams that represented Concacaf in the later stages of the Copa America last year. Panama obviously being the team that eliminated the Usmnt and prevented them from going out the group. And obviously, if we look back, Mexico had a pretty poor performance at Copa America. So it's a lot to play for all four teams. Panama is going to be trying to qualify for the final. They've made it to semifinals last two times. Mexico's going to try to finally win it. Canada maybe trying to make a statement, and the Usmnt trying to four-peat, right? So let's get into the preview for this episode, Adrian, or preview for this Nations League semifinal, starting with Mexico. And remind our listeners, man, what were the 23-player roster that Vascoaguirre called for Mexico?
Alrighty, I try to go as quick as I can, but we got goalkeepers, Angel Malagón from America, Raúl Rangel from Guadalajara, and Carlos Moreno from Pachuca. Defenders, we have Johan Vázquez from Genoa, Cesar Montes from Lokomotiv. We also have Ramón Juárez and Israel Reyes from America, Jesus Gallardo from Toluca, Rodrigo Huescas from Copenhagen, Jesus Angulo from Tigres, and Eric Lira from Cruz Azul. Midfielders, we have edsonalvarez from West Ham, Luis Romo from Guadalajara, Carlos Rodriguez from Cruz Azul, Luis Chavez from Dynamo Moscow, Orbelín Pineda, AEK Athens, and those are the midfielders. As far as forwards go, we have Chino Huerta from Anderlecht, Efraín Álvarez from Tijuana, or Cholos, Roberto Alvarado from Guadalajara, Alexis Vega from Toluca, Raúl Jiménez from Fulham, and Santiago Jiménez from Milan.
I'm still not used to seeing Anderlecht next to Chino Huerta's name, but it's so cool to see him over there in Europe playing well. But like we said, Mexico-Canada, rivalry that has been one-sided for the most part of history, right? But the last couple matches have been not heavily, but towards Canada's favor, right? So if we look back at the most recent 5 matches, September 10th, 2024, there was a 0-0 draw in an international friendly between Mexico and Canada. 16th of November, 2021, Canada beats Mexico 2-1 in World Cup qualifying. October 7th, 2021, Canada and Mexico tie 1-1 in World Cup qualifying. 29th of July, 2021, Mexico versus Canada. Mexico wins 2-1 in Gold Cup. And 2019, the Gold Cup, Mexico won 3-1 in that tournament. So the last 3 matches favoring Canada. But it's going to be an interesting matchup nonetheless. Adrian, how is Mexico faring and coming into this game, their form per se?
All right, so Mexico over the last 5 matches, right? We are counting every single thing that has happened between, I guess, the end of last year and the beginning of this year, right? We are seeing Mexico against Honduras on the quarterfinals for the Nations League, where they lost 2-0 versus, at Honduras, right? And then they won 4-0 in Mexico. And after that, I think we have the cup friendly games where they went and played against Internacional in Rio, I think it was Porto Alegre, sorry, where they won 2-0, and then they lost 2-0 against River in Buenos Aires, Argentina.
So, so we've seen results. Vasco play different formations. He's playing different players. We saw him kind of do a Liga MX January camp like the USA has done years past, right? So Canada, on the other hand, Adrian, their last game came on November 19th, 2024, where they had the doblete, the 2 matches against Suriname to qualify for the Nations League semifinals. They ended up winning the first match 1-0 and then ended up winning the second match 3-0. So aggregate 4-0 win, comfortable for Canada. Before that, Canada beat Panama on 2-1 on October 15, 2024. And like we mentioned already, the September 10th friendly against Mexico where they tied 0-0. So Canada come in with 3 wins of the last 4 matches, no losses. So it's going to be an interesting matchup here, and one that I'm eager to hear your speculation on formation from Vascoaguirre's side.
This is going to be an interesting one, man. All right, because I think for the most part, we've seen El Vascoaguirre go from 2 4-2-3-1 to a 5-3-2 formation sometimes. If we look at that match of last September, where he was his first time playing, where coaching Mexico on this specific route to 2026, he actually played with a back five, three midfielders, and two forwards. I I was doing some research here, and everything points out that he's probably going to try to do the same thing. Um, I thought he was going to stick with a 4-2-3-1 formation, but everything that I'm reading right now seems like he's just going to try to stick to his guns and play as aggressively and defensively as he can, just like they did back in September. If you remember, that was a very, very boring match and quite disputed in the midfield, right? They were just pretty much giving away tackles and freaking kicks everywhere. So if that is the case, if he starts with a back line of five, I think we're going to see, of course, Malagon as a keeper. We're going to see three center backs in the name of Cesar Montes, Johan Vasquez, and I think Jesus Angulo from Tigres. On the sides, I believe we're going to see, of course, Jesus Gallardo on the left. And this is where things might get a little interesting because if you're not going to put Rodrigo Huescas there, then this opens up a kind of warm. Who do you want there? You can probably put, one of your wingers, but are those wingers going to provide you defensive coverage? So I think I'm going to stick with Huescas for that specific case. In the middle, I think we're going to see Edsonalvarez. We're going to see Edsonalvarez and Orbelin Pineda, and I believe we're going to see Luis Romo. And then the top front, I think we're going to see Raul Jimenez and either Chino Huerta or Alexis Vega.
Wow. Okay. Raul Jimenez gets the nod for you here in this matchup.
Yes.
I don't think you go wrong with either of the Jimenez's up front right now, even though he had a good start to life in Milan, but he's kind of calmed down here the last couple of matches. Santiago Jimenez. But
how much is no goals?
Yeah, I'm with you. Raul is probably the guy to go with here. You got to go for experience, and it's a strong lineup, man. Based off this lineup, based off what we know about Canada, which team has the momentum going into this match? Obviously, Canada, the last two matches, they just dominated Suriname 4-0. But, I mean, obviously, look at the opponent, right? And exactly. Here we see vascoaguirre squad, who is pretty much, I would say, 100%, 99% all there. No big injuries, right, that I could think of, at least off the top of my head. So who do you think has the momentum going into this match?
It's difficult to say that Mexico has any momentum whatsoever, because even though they had a 50-50 kind of a January camp in South America, right? The bulk of those players are not here. Right. So for us to say, hey, they have the momentum, it's kind of a lie. And then Canada hasn't played a match since last November. I'm gonna say based on club on club performances, and now I am not a Canadian expert here, but I know they have a solid MLS base. Just on that specific point, man, I think Mexico has the slight advantage on performance because ligamx has been playing over the last 3 months or so. We are currently in jornada 12 or jornada 13, if you want to see it either way, meaning that, for example, the likes of Luis Romo and Jesus Angulo and Jesus Gallardo, all of them have had, competitive matches over the last 3 months, in addition to all of those European-based players that, have been playing significantly for their teams over the last since the winter break. So for that specific sense, I'm going to say that Mexico has the best momentum of both teams. But that momentum from Mexico can always go down significantly based on what the pundits think of them, and the fan base in general.
And for Canada, I guess they have a big MLS base, but the stars they do have, I think, obviously Jonathan David has been performing very well for Lille consistently. Davies. He just scored a goal in the Champions League. Alfonso Davies, right? It's always a player to watch. Derek Cornelius from Olympique Marseille. Kyle Larin from Mallorca. So I know your favorite. But there definitely is players for Canada that could make life difficult for Mexico. So especially Jonathan David, who I think is going to be my player to watch for this matchup.
We know that Canada is a physical team, and if there's anything that hurts Mexico a lot, is physical teams. So, yeah.
Adrian, before we move on to Usmnt, what is your prediction for the goals or for the score?
This is a tough one, man. I think, I seriously think they're going to go to extra times, and this is going to pretty much be like a penalty kick out kind of situation, in my opinion. And if that is the case, I don't see Mexico moving forward to the final. Wow. Yeah, I think they're going to choke at the end. Yeah.
What?
I mean, okay. El Vascoaguirre is pretty much doing his he's already saying that nothing happens if he loses, right? And so to me, he's making his bed,
Yeah.
or as we say in Mexico, teniendo la camita.
Bueno, let's talk about USMNT with Panama, Adrian. USMNT heading, well, before we talk into the record, let's talk about real quick the initial 23-man roster that Pochettino called up. Real quick, let me go through it here. Goalkeepers, he called up 3. Patrick Schulte from Columbus Crew, Zach Steffen from Colorado Rapids, Matt Turner from Crystal Palace. Defenders, Kevin Carter-Vickers from Celtic, Marlon Fossey from Standard Liège, Mark McKenzie from Toulouse, Tim Ream from Charlotte FC, Chris Richards from Crystal Palace, Anthony Robinson from Fulham, Joe Kelly, Borussia from Gladbach, and Austin Trusty Celtic. Midfielders Tyler Adams, Johnny Cardoso, Real Betis, with an asterisk. We'll talk about it right now. Diego Luna, Real Salt Lake, Weston McKennie, Juventus, Gio Reyna, Borussia Dortmund, Tanner Tessman, Olympique Lyon. And forwards, Patrick Agyemang from Charlotte, Yunus Musa, AC Milan, Christian Pulisic, AC Milan, and Josh Sargent, Norwich City, Timothy Weah, Juventus, Brian White, Vancouver Whitecaps. If you guys are following the USMT, y'all know Johnny Cardoso has not left Spain. He stayed in Spain per an injury he recently acquired. So Johnny Cardoso will not be participating in this. It is still yet, as of right now, Monday, to reveal who's his replacement. There's talk about Aiden Morris coming in for him, Brendan Aronson coming in, Gianluca Musso coming in. So unfortunate injury for Cardoso. Obviously he wants to play. He's been playing very well for La Liga this season. And he would have loved to have a chance at this Nations League, right? But it'll be interesting to see who Pochettino ends up choosing to replace him. But Adrian, man, what can you tell us about the head-to-head record of recently 5-6 matches against USA and Panama?
All right. So USA against Panama right now. We have the most recent match was in January. No, sorry. No. My bad. It was on October of last year, 12th of October. It was an international friendly, and USMNT won 2-0. The one before that one on Copa America, the USMNT lost 1-2. That was the sore game from freaking Triple G, right? Before that, the USMNT and the Concacaf Gold Cup lost on penalties, if I'm not mistaken. They tied the match 90 minutes, but they lost in penalties. And then on the FIFA World Cup qualifier, the USMNT destroyed Panama 5-0 in 2022. 2021, they faced off again. They lost against Panama 1-0 in Panama. And then 2020, the USMNT again destroyed Panama 6-2 on an international friendly. So those are the last 5 matches between them.
So yeah, the last 6 actually. In the last 6, man, 3 wins for Panama, 3 wins for the USMNT. So Panama has really, in the last 3 matches specifically, won 2 out of the last 3. So important victories for Panama. None more important than that Copa America win that knocked the USMNT out of the Copa America in their own soil. But Panama has definitely been improving and has been, has lapped over Costa Rica as the 4th big team in CONCACAF. Record, USA has won 19 out of the 28 matches. Panama has won 5, and there have been 4 draws, counting all friendlies and competitive matches to date. So how does the USMNT go into this record or into this match? USMNT's most recent match in January of this year was January Cupcake match against Costa Rica, 3-0 win. They also beat Venezuela 3-1 on January 18th of 2025. Before that, they faced Jamaica in the Nations League, beating them 4-2, and before that, beating them 1-0. So that's how the USMNT ended up qualifying for the Nations League semifinals. And before that, the USMNT played in an international friendly against Mexico, where they lost 2-0 in Guadalajara. And before that, there was that 2-0 victory that you mentioned back in October of last year, beating Panama 2-0. So the USMNT coming into this match off of 4 wins in a row. Nothing too impressive. It was a January Camp Cupcake, but they'll at least take solace into that. Some of those players from January Camp Cupcake that did really well are in here in this roster for them. So we'll see what they can do here against Panama. But like we said earlier in the video, Panama has lost the last 2 semis of the Nations League. So been eliminated twice the last 2 years in the semifinal. So they'll be hoping to jump into the final this time around. And let's kind of go into our predictions for the lineup. Adrian, man, I have predicted here a 4-3-3 for Pochettino, starting with Turner in the back, the 2 center backs, Richards and McKenzie. On the left, Robinson. On the right, Scally. And the middle 3 would be Adams as kind of a holding mid, McKennie on the left, and Musa on the right. And up front, Sargent leading the number 9. To his left, Tim Weah, and to his right, Christian Pulisic. I think it's a strong roster, a roster that, even though there's a lot of injuries, he'll be, Pochettino that is, content and knowing that there's equal quality replacement coming in to replace them, those injured players. Sargent has been on fire in the championship, so there's no Balogun, there's no Pepe, there's no Wright, but it's Sargent's turn to grab the reins, right? And Pulisic has been outstanding for AC Milan. So what are your thoughts on this roster?
This is a very strong roster, man. This is a really well-balanced. They know each other. I love to see my boy Josh Sargent as the lone striker for this team. Every single time that I give him flowers, he gets injured. Please, please, I
It's
hope this
true.
doesn't happen. This doesn't happen again. Um, I think it's unfortunate to see Johnny Cardoso get injured and not being called up, but it will be a booster for Adams to be here, right? I think it's a then again goes to show the very well thought out pool of players that the USMNT has. You can say you have two players per position at this moment in time. The only question that I have and that I would like to pose to you, man, is do we really see Turner as the starting keeper? Has Zach Steffen made enough of good performances with Colorado Rapids, looking at the end of last season and the beginning of this MLS season, for Pochettino to at least consider making a move on that position?
Other than forward, man, in the striker position, that's a good question because I think that's the one that really has, the most people scratching their head. Do you play a Zach Steffen who's playing well in the MLS and who's been playing well for weeks and months now, right? Or do you
Mm-hmm.
play Matt Turner who hardly plays, but it's riding the bench in the EPL, right? So um, we've seen that Pochettino has favors Turner, at least in the competitive matches, right? So I think that trend will continue. But I definitely think if the USMNT lose this and it's because of Turner trying to play off the back, like he's known to be nervous doing that, or mistake from Turner, I think we could be looking forward at to seeing a new person between the sticks. So I think this is a big chance for Turner to prove himself that hey, even though I'm not playing a lot in Europe right now, I can still be counted on. But if he doesn't step up, I think that there'll be other keepers definitely knocking there. And no, I echo what you say, man. Big return for Tyler Adams. Huge boost, especially with the Cardoso out. We might even see that Musa, McKennie, Adams lineup
It's been a while.
midfield trio that we saw in the World Cup,
Mhm.
right? And another thing that I want to bring up here, Gio Reyna. No spot for Gio Reyna in my starting 11 here. So somebody who's also not playing very well in Europe right now, or not playing at all.
Not playing
So
at all, yeah.
so yeah, if he gets some game time here, it's probably going to be like a showcase for him, right? Trying to find suitors for him in the summer. We know he can
Mhm.
play. We've seen him ball out before in the Nations League, so we'll see if he gets some game time here, man. Um, Speaking of Panama now, man, what do you think they need to expose or strategies to counter the USMNT?
So the very first one that comes to my mind, and I think this is a really good point that you and I have discussed recently, is the they need to expose the lack of firepower that the USMNT currently has due to injuries. Right?
Yeah,
We said on our episode of reactions of the roster that unfortunately there is a good number of injuries for these USMNT. Right? You
right.
don't have Balogun, you don't have Haji Wright, you don't have Pepe, and these are players who have contributed on goals to their clubs, right? And you will for sure miss them because right now you only have Josh Sargent and Brian White as the main strikers for your team. Now, don't get me wrong, Brian White has proven to be the best US striker outside of the European players. But if you look at what Haji just did with Coventry City in the championship this last weekend, you can really think that perhaps the USMNT is going to miss him. So that will be one of those things that I will definitely encourage Panama to expose. And this goes to hand in hand with what you just mentioned is outside of if there are two positions in the starting 11 for the USMNT that you have the most doubts are the striker position, and then the other thing that Panama should focus on is the goalkeeping position, right?
Yeah,
Expose the lack of confidence that the goalkeepers of the USMNT currently have, specifically Matt Turner. He rarely plays, right? He is not the starting 11 player for Crystal Palace. We know that this has uh, impacted his, I guess, performance level, his readiness for a competitive match. And even though this is Concacaf, which tend to be a step below maybe what a Premier League match would be, if you want to discuss that, um, it's still a highly competitive scenario where a small mistake can make or break your strategy for the match. And we know that Matt Turner gets highly pressured, specifically when he gets assigned or tasked to play from behind, right? To play
yeah,
from the very bottom of the pitch. So I would say high pressure in those areas would definitely keep him on his toes.
yeah, man. And that leads into my next point here. Predictions, score predictions, man. I think this is going to be a USA 2-1 win, but I think Panama's goal comes first, and it comes from a Matt Turner error or a goalkeeping error.
Wow. Okay.
So
I
I think
mean,
the USMNT end up winning it. I think the players, the standout performers that need to step up for the USMNT are going to step up. Weston McKennie, Christian Pulisic, Jedi Robinson. But I think it's going to start nervy, and it's going to start with a maybe a quick goal first 20, 25 minutes for Panama, but the Usmnt ends up winning 2-1. I don't see extra time
I
for
mean,
this
yeah,
match,
let's call it what it is, man. The Usmnt is the strongest team in Concacaf, and so they have to win this match. As simple as that.
especially now
Yeah,
with a competent coach.
exactly.
But Adrian, this has been our preview for the Nations League semifinals, man. As we wrap up this episode, brother, where can our listeners find us?
They can always find us on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and turn on the notifications. You can also find us on Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast on. Last but not least, you can also find us on Instagram and TikTok. We post memes, latest news, and shorts of our episodes.
Yeah, so be sure to follow us on preferred social media platform of choice. Be sure, like Adrian said, hit the little bell so you can be notified when we get our uploads, most recent uploads, and so you'll be the first to watch our content here. And be sure to follow us here on Puro Pinche Gol if you want more content for the Nations League, more content for ligamx and the Usmnt and seleccionmexicana. And let us know in the comments below, what are your thoughts for this Nations League semifinals? Who do you have winning the Mexico-Canada match, the Usmnt Panama match? Who do you think are the standout players for both teams? Let us know in the comments below. We like interacting with you guys. Adrian, man, good episode. See you next one, brother.
Nos vemos.
Bye.